Yajong, hello, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time, thank you so much for being here. My name is Bao. I started this channel to share my experience being Hmong, Christian, and divorced. Today's little vlog is just gonna jump into three of the big side effects, maybe the only side effects that I took note of in coming out of the marriage, right? These are things that occurred during the 16 years that I was married that I only post-divorce really reflected and looked back at all these problematic things that essentially left me with dealing with these particular side effects, as I call them. The first one, probably without any big introduction, is depression. I am very happy to say that it's something that I no longer have to deal with, that I dwell on. Everybody processes depression differently, and I am no different. The way that I do it may be a little longer than some other people, but anyways, it was something that kind of creeped up on me subtly. I'm not a stranger to depression. In my middle teens, I had already had that experience. So I kind of knew the symptoms that I deal with. I know it's a little hard for me to explain it, but I process things differently. And so I recognize the symptoms and the feelings and the thoughts that kind of start to come over me when I'm feeling really down or sad. So I kind of understand that from a feeling perspective and symptom-wise, how my body reacts to behaviors or to whatever, right? That affects me internally and how I process things. And so it was not something that I had expected in the marriage. So in a way, it did take me by surprise because of how subtle it was and how gradual, to the point where it just got really bad eventually. Depression was, and it still isn't a very well discussed topic, especially within Hmong churches. So this is something that I advocate for, and I am very open to talk about my experience, how I overcame it, and that's what I'm going to talk a little bit about today. So just a little background on the depression that I had in the marriage. Maybe the three biggest, or the one biggest topic that I can kind of share is that there were three different occasions where I thought giving up on life was the best alternative. The depression that I was going through had gotten me to that level. I should have been clinically diagnosed. I probably should have seen someone about it, but during those years, I was so busy just getting the bills paid, watching the children, taking care of the home, that I really didn't have any time to myself. I didn't even have any time to think about what I was going through, and even really reflecting on the toll that depression had taken on me. I knew that at some point I was depressed. I knew that much, but I didn't have the time to take care of it. I know that won't make sense. But financially, I knew I wasn't going to be able to do that. And there really wasn't any time in my schedule. I was so busy with family. First, it was work, right? 40 hours a week. And then after work is family. And then the weekends was church. And it was basically, at the time, it was Saturdays and Sundays, right? So when would I have time for myself? I really didn't. I just gave so much of my time, so much of me, into whatever I did outside of the home. It was 100%, sometimes more, and it just kept me going that way. That became a routine. And so when the depression really finally caught up with me, I knew I was in bad shape. So there were 3 times that I thought about suicide, but the 2 main reasons I didn't ever follow through was my children. I always looked at them as, and they still are, the light of my life. They are the very reason that I woke up every morning, pushed myself to go to work, to be able to provide for them. I would lay my life down for them. I love them so much. And, those first 2 times, whenever I got really close the little voice would be like, but what about these little children that are entrusted in my care? Who's gonna watch after them when I'm gone, right? So that always stayed my hand. I could never follow through for that because I didn't want to leave my children. So in a way, you know, of course, I didn't want to give up. You know, I always tell myself, and I do believe that I am a fighter, but during those years, it was just that bad that I didn't see any other light at the end of the tunnel, and I just wanted to end everything. I wanted to be in a place of peace, and I didn't want to keep struggling, keep fighting. But thinking of my young children always helped me out of that, and I don't regret it because that, in a way, they were my rescues, right? They were my voices of reason for pulling me out of the pit that I was in. They were very far apart, but it did happen. The very last time that I thought about giving up on life was probably the changing moment of my life, and in my thoughts of suicide and also my depression. It changed the way that I looked at depression, and it started to help me overcome it. It's the only way I can say it. So on that third incident, when I was, you know, thinking and dwelling on it, I heard a voice say to me, "Is he worth dying for?" It's, you know, looking back, sometimes I still wonder about it, you know, but that's what the question was put to me. Is he worth dying for? And I had to really think about it. Like, who is he? You know, and of course it was my ex-husband, and I had to really evaluate his character in that moment, because there was this moment that I was in was going to be dependent upon my answer. And so I had all these thoughts in my mind, and I had to really recalculate everything.